Today, I got sent to another world by this mysterious guy. Nothing weird there, except that here, donkeys can talk and they don't like capitalism. And also apparently the Inquisition is still going strong. I don't want to talk about this. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in this place either. So I better become a priest and start a zombie army, right? Now get yourself nice and comfortable and join me in this madness as I play 100 Days of Graveyard Keeper. The game starts with me going back home to my loved one, but I was never able to make it, and instead I got sent to this place where this guy said I was going to be the new Graveyard Keeper. And things started to get weird. He told me to dig up Jerry, and since I needed some answers, that's what I did. And as if a talking school wasn't weird enough, Jerry told me he had amnesia and that I needed to talk with his donkey. The donkey was bringing me a corpse as he complained about capitalism. I'm cheap labor too, donkey, I feel you. As he was leaving, Jerry showed up again and told me to grab that juicy corpse so I could extract some body parts from it. He also promised to tell me how to get back home if I bring him a beer. I proceeded to extract the meat from the body and that unlocked me some recipes. But I think I'll pass on these. Later, he told me about the graveyard and how to bury the body, and that gave me a burial certificate, which I'm able to sell for some money. And then the bishop showed up, and apparently he's my boss. He told me that my graveyard was looking terrible, and that I needed to upgrade its quality to +5, so he could promote me. I am currently at -29. I began my exploration going to the right side, where I found a village. I went inside this tavern and met Horadric. He told me he would buy the meat I extracted if I had a royal stamp. I also saw that he sells beer, so I bought one and also sold my burial certificate. A little to the south, I met with this blacksmith, who gave me a sword and asked me to fight some slimes, and he gave me 5 simple iron parts in return. To the north of the village, this guy asked me for an iron axe. Back to my property, Jerry showed up again, just to tell me he wouldn't help me without his beer. So I gave him the beer I bought from the tavern, only for him to tell me he needed something stronger. But he told me about a portal on Witch Hill, and told me to look for the astrologer. He also asked me for wine. Under my house, I found some flour, which I turned into dough to make some bread. I unlocked my first tag from the huge tag tree that this game has, and baked some bread on the fireplace. At this point, I was still feeling a bit lost on how to progress, so I was walking around grabbing resources as I was sure I would need at some point. On day 4, Horadric gave me a permit to use the garden next to my house, but I need to ask the merchant for his approval first. As the day went by, I continued to meet more people around the village. This crazy dude asked me for 5 honey pots. At the lighthouse, the fisherman asked me to bring 6 moths so he could give me a fishing rod. On day 5, I stumbled upon the Inquisitor. Strange guy. He asked me to join his witch-burning ceremony. It would be my honor, I guess? It's only day 5 and things keep getting weirder. The Inquisitor asked me to be his friend, and since I don't want to get burned, I accepted it. Back home, there was already another body for me to take care of, so I extracted the meat and learned how to also extract blood and fat. And that taught me that apparently, I can ruin the body when extracting stuff. Went to the graveyard, finished the job, and got another burial certificate. While I was there, I worked a little on the place to increase my graveyard points. A little icon showed up at the top. At this point, the game was telling me that I needed to go to sleep, so I went back and rested for a while. The day goes by faster and it also regains stamina while sleeping. When I woke up, this ghost came to talk to me and asked me to get rid of a body that was buried in the graveyard, so he gave me a permit to exhume the body. I dug out the body and threw it in the river. I probably shouldn't have done that though, but I don't know better. And hey, I just work here. Jerry showed up and complained about my actions. He told me that the river leads to the town. So yeah, I'm probably in trouble. Back under my house, I cleared this path to see what's on the other side. and more bodies kept coming in the meantime. I met this guy called Snake on the other side, but I still need whatever this is to make him talk to me. The path under the house leads to 2 ladders. The one on the top is still closed for now, and the other one leads right to the village, a nice shortcut. There I met the merchant, and I talked about the garden with him. At first, he tried to charge me 10 gold coins. I told him it was too much, so he tried 5 gold coins, which was still too much. He then asked me to plant a bunch of stuff for him, and thinking I could bargain even more, I declined again. He got mad, and now he was charging 1 gold coin, plus some hiccup grass to cure him from his hiccups. I went back and claimed the property anyways. If he complains, I'll bury him too. But at the time, I didn't have anything to plant yet. I went to check what was going on north of my house and found some slimes and also some iron to collect. At this point, I had a bunch of missions stacked and absolutely no idea how to complete them. So I was just trying to get some points to unlock more technologies. I also met the farmer, south of the wheat fields. I learned that he sells seeds for my farm, but I didn't buy anything just yet. I don't know what I did with the iron parts I got from the blacksmith, so I went there and bought 5 more so I could craft a furnace later on. I also crafted a wooden anvil. Now with this furnace, I shouldn't need to buy iron parts ever again, so I immediately placed my iron ingots there to smelt. Day 12, I spent pretty much the whole day crafting grave decorations to increase my rating to +5. So all of my energy went into collecting wood, stone, and crafting. Day 13, I finished grabbing the iron deposits that were near my house, which gave me roughly 20 iron ores. And by the end of the day, I gave the graveyard some love and finally got the rating off the negatives. Here I went to look for the Inquisitor to see what he had to say, but he wasn't there, so I thought it was because it was too early in the morning. But in reality, I've been checking the calendar wrong this whole time. I was thinking that today was the top symbol, but it's actually the bottom one. But you think I noticed that? Of course not. I came back later again to see if the Inquisitor was there, and to the surprise of nobody, he wasn't. So completely clueless to the situation, I just stuck to what I knew I was doing right. So I got the 5 points I needed for the Bishop's mission. I finally fixed the bridge on the left side, which unlocked a whole new area for me, but following the path, there was another blockage that needed to be cleared. So instead, I went to check the swamp that was also in the area. There was a bunch of iron around in case I needed it. I also found some hiccup grass that the merchant was asking for, which was nice. This swamp was more like a maze, and I was trying to get to the center of it. And once I got there, I saw that at least I could build a bridge later to save me from the trouble of going around the maze every time. There was also a witch there, and just like Jerry, she lost her memories and asked me for a bunch of stuff. So I left with another mission, hoping that I would figure it out later. Back at the house, I spent most of my energy crafting materials to repair some of the broken areas around the map, and also taking care of the corpses that kept coming in. I repaired the desk at the mortuary just to see that it had no use for me at that point. I got to a point that I was spending too much energy and had no food to replenish it, and I didn't want to sleep as it makes the time goes by faster. So my option was to cook the meat I was extracting from the bodies. I unlocked iron tools to see if that would help me with the stamina consumption, and also the advanced forging tech. By the end of the day, I cleared the next blockage that was after the bridge, and also the hatch outside of the mortuary. On the morning of the next day, I fixed the hatch that was inside so it could connect and work properly. Then I went exploring to the other side of that blockage I removed. There I found another area which looked to be some kind of secondary crafting base. There was even a house with a bed. It is a pretty big area looking at the map. Nearby there is also a mine that I can't go because of toxic gases. Maybe I have to send Jerry there or something. I learned that bats can spawn at night in this area, and I couldn't figure out what to do with this big tree for now. Back at the quarry, I can exchange wood for stone. I did it one time to see how it works, but I don't think I'll be needing it for now. But it's definitely good to know. When talking with Jerry, he told me about helpers that the Oath Keeper used to have, and that there's one still chained under the church, but for some reason I should never unchain him. And this was finally the moment I realized I was completely wrong about the calendar. It only took 21 days for me to realize. I just hope I wasn't the only one. Better sooner than later, I guess. On day 23, I cleared this path that also leads to the forest, and finally got to meet the Inquisitor again on the right day this time. He asked me to get some firewood and some flyers to advertise the next burning ceremony. As the day was ending, I crafted some iron tools for more efficiency. Made 2 iron axes because one's for the lumberjack near the village. I extracted more parts, thinking that I would use them at some point, and gave 5 honey pots to the crazy guy. In exchange, he gave me the recipe for a cake. On the way back, I saw the astrologer, but I was too late and he was already leaving, so I couldn't interact with him. Apparently, he lives in the town. I gave the woodcutter his iron axe and got more food recipes. Back at the graveyard, I finished the task with the bishop, and he named me the prior of the church and wanted me to conduct my first sermon. Inside the church, he taught me a prayer and told me to try it out. And that's how it went. Somehow I got 3 faith from that. So now that the church is open, every Sunday I'll have to prepare a ceremony. Am I the only one feeling that this is becoming one of those animes? That time I got reincarnated as a priest and a gravedigger. Under the church, I'm able to build a bunch of new stuff. And there's also a study table where I can study every item to get tech points in exchange for faith. And as you can tell, I made the mistake of studying items that didn't give me blue tech points. Yeah, I don't know why I did that too. Outside, I was able to interact with the royal service box, and I became a citizen for 10 copper. I built a hand mixer but had no idea how to use it. At the tavern, I met a lady called Miss Charm, but she had no time for me. Then the poet called me and asked me for paper and ink for him to write stories. The donkey got mad at me for turning myself into a capitalist and told me he couldn't call me comrade anymore. So he pooped and left. Little did he know that more than a capitalist, I'm also a poop expert and got carrot seeds from it. I learned how to extract important parts and hard spares. So I started to extract stuff, and I saw that each part does something with the little skull's points on the body. I gave the hiccup grass to the merchant, and that made him lose his taste. So now I have to find something to cure that. Now this corpse is completely ruined. I then planted the carrots. It wasn't too much, but it's something. I wonder if I should throw this body in the river too. I handed the firewood to the Inquisitor, and that gave me just enough friendship for him to give me permission to use the other side of the graveyard. I got more carrot seeds with the farmer on the way back, and planted them already, and got the left side of the graveyard unlocked. Day 30, I finally talked to the astrologer. He asked me for a skull. I grabbed it really quick and went back. He talked to me about how the old keeper was knowledgeable about the portal, and that he had a diary with information about it, but it was locked behind the gate under the church, so I had to find a way in. He also told me to study the key that he gave me. The bishop asked me for clay bowls, and he gave me the ability to gather sand and clay. It was Sunday, so I had to do a ceremony. My church points were low, so I had 50% chance for the sermon to work, and of course it didn't. The sermon was really mid, and it only got me 1 faith. I tried to study the key on the table, but it needs instructions. I realized that I could get blue tech points from some items, so I studied some of them and got my first few blue points, and with that, I now have 26 of them. I learned how to make ceramic bowls that the bishop needs, some benches for the church, and the flyers for the Inquisitor. And then I placed a couple of benches to increase the quality of the church. I harvested some carrots, and that gave me a lot, but the amount of seeds were lower than before. I also increased the yard space, and that removed the ugly swamp that was near the house. And then I started to get some clay for the bowls. And on the next day, I crafted them, and it was pretty easy. I unlocked more techs, this time for the circular saw. That allows me to craft wood beams. Day 34, I spent gathering some iron and crafting materials. It was costing me a lot of energy. Day 35, I cleared the blocked path under my house to the church. I collected some sand to see what I could do with it, and built this stone garden near the house. Completely useless, by the way. It lets me meditate and that's it. Same as sleeping, but worse. I unlocked some technologies regarding writing and paper crafting, and that unlocked me the church workbench. It was Sunday again, so I placed the remaining benches in preparation for the next sermon. I still had time, so I also crafted a desk, which allows me to write on papers and also make new prayers. The church workbench lets me craft the paper for the desk. Time for the sermon, with 90% chance to work this time. And it did. I got 4 more faiths from that. I made some paper to put on the study table to allow me to study more items. So I used the faith I got to study the brain, and it gave me 50 blue points. And before the bishop leaves for the day, I gave him the bowls, and now he wants me to increase the quality of the graveyard to 30 and the church to plus 20. He also wants 4 fish fillets. I unlocked the gathering for insects and some stuff for the mortuary that I was hoping to know how to use. The corpse was still there and I wasn't sure what to do with it, so I unlocked the cremation tag and now I could burn the body instead of throwing it in the river. And that's what I did. And surprisingly, burning it also gives me a burial certificate, which is nice. I need the money. I made the embalming table that I unlocked, but I needed a body to test it with. I unlocked the X-Men perk, and now I can cut down bigger trees for more logs. I bought more carrot seeds as my farm was not self-sustainable, and it's probably because I'm doing something very wrong. With the new perk, I was able to start clearing the graveyard even more, and I lined up the logs to make it faster. The donkey was back, and this time he was on a strike. He was asking for 5 carrots for each corpse delivered from now on. Plus I needed to find oil to put on the wheels of his wagon. I spent day 41 gathering resources to give the graveyard some love. I crafted some repair kits and repaired some of the graves. I also checked to see what I needed to make the embalming fluids, and I had no idea what these materials were. I found an infinite gold deposit, so I grabbed a bunch of it. I was able to mine from this iron deposit, which gave me this huge iron bar that turned into 6 iron ores, but I need an iron stockpile for that. Each Sunday I was getting better at the sermons, but not really. Still 4 faiths for now. I studied the heart this time, and that also gave me 50 blue points. I wanted to try the seed oil that the old man sells to see if it works for the donkey's wheel, and it turns out that it works just fine. He was happy, dropped off the corpse, and left. I put the body on the embalming table just to make it official. I had no idea how to make it work. I studied more body parts for the blue points and made some paper. Being able to make it out of skin makes it pretty easy. I figured I needed to stop ruining the bodies so I could increase the quality of my graveyard, but I still wanted to know how each part affects those little skull points. So in the meantime, I put the effort in making the other graves look nicer. I can also increase the quality with other stuff, and so I realized that the placement of the graves matters. And anybody that didn't fit the graveyard standards, I was burning. I was lowering those standards myself, but it's still for science. I unlocked some more tags from the theology tree, and one was a perk that would grant me more donations after my sermons. And at the end of the day 46, I cleared this shortcut to Witch Hill. By collecting flowers from the ground, I discovered that this is the way to collect the moths for the fishermen. But the tasks kept piling up, and Donkey was delivering bodies like crazy. So I did some more work on the graveyard. And took care of the bodies, so Donkey continues to send me more. I was collecting a bunch of stuff, so I made another trunk to organize it better. It was church day again, so I worked on improving the quality to see if it would get me more faith and more donations. Got the quality up to 15 and performed the ceremony. That gave me 1 more faith than usual, and now I was getting a whole silver coin for my efforts. I also got the graveyard to 30 quality points. I got this perk to see if it would help me get more seeds from the crops, and spoilers, it didn't work. I built a confessional and now the quality was finally at 20 for the task. I studied for more blue points and just left these 2 bodies there for now. Too much work. I got the remaining moths I needed and grabbed more iron. At night, I talked with Snake and used my 5 faith to convince him to talk. He then gave me the instructions I needed to study the key. But now I have to wait until I get more faith. I sold 6 burial certificates for a total of 9 silver and gave the poet some paper. I went to the lighthouse and exchanged the moth for a fishing rod. On day 53, I continued my work on the graveyard as I knew the bishop would ask me to continuously increase its quality. That grave placement was triggering me, so I had to move it to make things look nice and even. So I dug the body out and dug back in, and now all the perfectionists can go to sleep in peace. I made a quick run to get more iron, and I was finally understanding how to get higher corpse quality. I used my money to buy some ink from the astrologer, as I figured I would take ages to learn how to do it myself. And then I used some of it to make the flyers for the Inquisitor. I finished one more task with the bishop, and now I only need the fish. And with 20 points on my church, I now got 6 faith for each sermon. After the sermon, I went downstairs to study the key. Now I only have to wait for Snake. I gave one of my inks to Wagner the poet, and now he was offering wine in exchange for a story. By the end of the day, I tried fishing for a bit, but I suck at it, and I only caught 1 fish. I made some ceramic jugs for the funeral urns, which is for a decoration at the graveyard. I was on a mission to get perfect white skull bodies, but the surgeon's mistakes were ruining it, so I got the gentle butcher perk. And then I used my remaining faith to study. Snake arrived, so I handed him the keys. And we finally opened that gate. The keeper's diary was right there, so I went there to grab it. What? Game over, guys. Day 57 is all we get. Well, it turns out I am immortal apparently. Snake was as surprised as I was, but for him it's not fair that someone like me has such powers. He saw some good in it and asked me to go into the dungeon behind him, so he wouldn't have to. Holy guacamole. I found a helper that Jerry talked about. He asked me to hit him so he could feel something. He told me he was a zombie named Gunther, and that I should make more zombies like him, as they would be a big help for me. And also that there was a buried one already along the path to the forest. Asking why he was locked up, he said it was because he was different from the others and too smart. And since Jerry told me to not unlock him, I didn't. Right next to Gunther, I got the resurrection table tag and some zombie juice. I made a quick detour to grab the body from the ground so it wouldn't lose any quality. And then I went back to carefully grab the diary this time. I unlocked some zombie technology and gave the flyers to the Inquisitor. He had the next burning ready and invited me again to watch it. This time the citizens were not impressed by it and they left before the end. The Inquisitor got mad about the situation and asked me to bring some wine for his guards, as it would make them more motivated to hunt more witches. With that, he allowed me to use his vineyard not so far from there. But first, I wanted to see what the resurrection table was about. I crafted one, placed the body there, but unfortunately I need 10 faith to use it, so I had to wait. I went back to the lighthouse to give the diary to the astrologer, and he told me what I need to maybe activate the portal, and that these items were somewhere in the town. But to start, he told me to go back and check the portal, and also get some materials so he can read the rest of the diary. I bought 4 fish fillet from the fisherman, and gave it to the bishop on the next day. Now I just need to buy a building permit for 20 silver, so he can upgrade the church. I didn't have the money, so I did the good old sermon to get more silver and more faith. I ventured a little inside the dungeon under the church to see what's going on. And there were a bunch of bats and slimes, and breakable pots too that dropped some random items. I only cleared the first floor and left. I bought some grape seeds from the merchant so I could make some wine later. I went to check the place Gunther talked about and found the buried zombie under the rocks. I got a zombie woodcutting tag, so I checked a big tree nearby to see if I could do something with the zombie, but nothing showed up. I tried to resurrect the zombie, but that didn't work either. He's probably resurrected already. So I saw that I had to unlock the technologies for it to show up. I decided to try the mining one first. I went back to grab the materials to build the mining station. I got rid of my furnace to build a furnace level 2. And started smelting a bunch of glass in the meantime. Back at the quarry, I had the materials to build the station. I grabbed the zombie and placed him there. Apparently he's going to mine some iron for me. I made a porter station, but I think I need another zombie here to deliver the materials. It was about time I checked the options of prayers I could craft, so I spent some time reading all of them and checking what it would cost to make. It's been a while since I got a delivery from Donkey, so I got these 2 bodies and burned them. They were pretty bad already. I made a candle to see how it works, and it increased +1 momentarily to the quality of the church. I did my sermon as usual, and somehow they enjoy the same words over and over again. I baked a cake to give me bonus points when I study things. I gave it a try to see how good it was, and it turned out to be not so good, but it's not hard to make cakes, so I guess it's fair. I unlocked books to start crafting my new prayer, and got to work on it. I decided to go for the combo prayer, as it would be a good balance between more money and more faith. I started by crafting some notes first, to then craft chapters. I was hoping to get some silver star notes. The way it works is, I make notes, and with the notes I make chapters, and with chapters I make a book. I only got 2 silver star notes. I was kinda scared that the whole thing wouldn't work out, because now there was a 0% chance of getting a bronze star book for the prayer. I went for it anyway, because I had to see how it works, and I guess it didn't matter at all. Still got the bronze star book. And with that, my combo prayer was complete. Can't wait to use this banger. By the time I finished, there was 2 more bodies already waiting on the floor, but I just left them there for now. I smelted those glasses I made into some conical flasks. My grapes were ready to be harvested, and again, that only gave me enough to replant 1 more time. I went back to the quarry to check how the zombie was doing, and this whole time he was still stuck on that iron. I didn't understand why, so I left for the future me to figure that out. I messed around with the little skull system 1 more time just to make sure I wasn't missing anything, and I felt like the surgeon's mistake thing wasn't worth the risk. So I buried the good body and burned the other one. The future me realized what was wrong with the zombie and made an iron stockpile there at the quarry, and that was exactly the problem. But by the end of the day, it happened again, this time with coal, and my brain stopped working again. It was time to pray anyway. This time I was going to put on a show for those guys. What? That only gave me 1 extra faith. At least I was getting double the money. I decided to stick with only extracting the soft spares, as it was working great. Day 74 was to work a little more on the graveyard. We are now above 50 quality points. I cleared these paths that connect the mortuary to the church to save some time when going back and forth. And also this one, just because it was the only one left. I sold a burial certificate and finally got those 20 silver I needed for the building permit. So I went there and got the permit before I spent the money on something else. And now I just had to wait for next Sunday to upgrade the church. In the meantime, I started to gather materials to build more stuff inside the upgraded church. I didn't know how much bigger it was going to be, but at least I was expecting it to be bigger. And since the upgrade was going to happen on a Sunday, I had to have everything prepared already to boost the quality right away. I stopped by the confessional and got myself one faith and a gossip to tell. And the next day, I just spent working on gathering resources. It was finally Sunday, and I had everything ready for the bishop, so I gave him the permit and the church was finally upgraded. I was hyped for the next sermon, until he told me that I needed to be a rightful citizen to perform a ceremony in the new church. I built some altars anyway, and went outside to check the paperwork. And since I spent all my money on the building permit, I didn't have enough for the citizenship. So I was now on a mission to get 3 silver before the end of the day. I buried the body, burned another, ran to the tavern and sold the certificates. Ran back, got the paperwork and a town pass for free, and handed the paper to the bishop, only for him to tell me it wasn't necessary. This guy. He proceeded to tell me about his dream to build a cathedral, but of course I would need a lot more quality points for that. We talked about it and set the numbers to 50 points for the church and 200 points for the graveyard. And when I tried to perform the ceremony, it was too late. Outside the church, Yorick showed up to tell me he got promoted and had a lot of work to do. On day 80, I crafted an alchemy workbench, and it was one more thing that I had no idea how to make it work. I tried to mix some stuff randomly, and that gave me a goo of health, which I also have no idea what it's for. But I studied it as it didn't cost me any faith. I remembered I now had a town pass, so I talked to the guard and he let me through. I can now look for the items for the portal. What? Again? When I respawned, Jerry was there to tell me that he felt a powerful rage and that someone or something doesn't want me in the town. I told him I needed to go there to grab the items for the portal, and he told me to ask Snake to grab them for me. At Witch Hill, I was going to check the pedestal, but the Inquisitor ordered his guards to watch it because he had a bad dream about the cultists. So now I had a task to get rid of the guards. Talking with Snake, I asked him to grab the items in the town for me. He said he can find anything, but of course it comes with a price. He wants me to help him first, so I'll have to build trust with him. I finished building in every available slot in the church, and that got me to 35 quality points. To help Snake, I need to clear that dungeon, so I started looking into crafting an armor and a sword. I had a lot of candles to light up this time, so I crafted a bunch of them in preparation for the next sermon. It's going to be my first one since I upgraded the church. I placed all the candles, one by one, and managed to get the quality all the way up to 41. And the sermon was an absolute success. That gave me 13 faith and a little over 4 silver. Now that I had plenty of faith, I tried the resurrection table with one of the corpses I had, and easy as that, I now had another zombie to work for me. I wish I could put names on them. And now that I have a delivery zombie, I had to fix the problem with that code that was stuck. But to see if everything was working, I mined some iron to see what the zombie would do. And off he goes. That's so cool. He comes all the way here to deliver stuff. Look at him. I made a stone stockpile to see if it would solve the problem with the coal, but it didn't. But at least I had that built for eventual problems. I still have faith to spare, so I resurrected another body, but before assigning a task to that one, I placed a trunk at the quarry, and that fixed the coal situation. But I didn't want my coal delivered in small amounts, so I turned off the coal delivery entirely. For the third zombie, I got the wood cutting tack to place him at the big tree in the forest. I built their workspace and placed the zombie near the tree, and he immediately started chopping it. And look at Delivery Dave on his way with more iron. What a guy. I have iron for days now, that's insane. I built a stone cutter level 2 to craft better quality materials for the graveyard. At Witch Hill, I talked with the Inquisitor about the guards, and told him not to worry about the situation because I would keep an eye out since I lived nearby. But for him to accept that, I would need to increase my trust with him. On the 90th day, I went back to the dungeon, now equipped with my new sword and armor. I found a place with a lot of bookshelves, but they were all empty. When trying to go down to the next floor, I discovered that I have to completely clear the floor first, so that's what I did. On the third floor, there was a new creature, some type of mosquito or something. They all dropped different kinds of powders. I found that pretty interesting, as maybe now I would be able to learn how to use the alchemy workbench. Further down, I found a healing potion that the witch at the swamp asked me for. That was nice since I completely ignored her. Back home, I made some green jellies with all the slime I got, and asked some folks to donate their life funds to me. I went to the tavern to talk to Miss Charm, this time with the confidence I needed. I told her I wasn't a small man, I was the respected graveyard keeper, but she could call me keeper as I was a big fan. I asked her about Snake to see if she would help me deal with him. I suppose I'm very behind on this questline. The dude's my bro. She gave me some fake coins and asked me to throw it at Snake's face and see his reaction. I went back to the swamp to give the witch her potion and she got her memories back. I am now able to trade with her and she sells a lot of interesting stuff, but I didn't want to spend my money on that right now. When asking about the merchant's loss of taste, she told me I could craft something to help him with that, and she taught me how, so I can now make spices. I didn't know how to make a health solution, but I guess it would be with the health goo I got earlier. But I first tried life powder with water, and that didn't work. I then saw that I needed 4 health goo at the hand mixer to be able to make something. So I started mixing salt with water until I got the remaining 2. The outcomes were pretty random and it took me a while to get it, but eventually I did. And with the 4 health goo, I was able to make the health solution, and then the spices. I handed the fake coins to Snake and he asked me if I was Miss Charm's new lover. I didn't want to cause any trouble, so I chose to say that I just met her, which was true anyways. I made another zombie to work together with Lumberjack Larry. The wood pile was already full, so they started delivering right away. I got the right materials this time and rebuilt the bridge in the swamp to save me some time when coming back here. I'm starting to wonder if I will ever need this much iron. I built another timber stockpile at the house as I would be getting a lot of logs now. I realized I had the option to fix the graveyard fence, so I did, and that alone gave me plus 10 points. I did some more work there and crafted some more funeral urns. It was donation day again, and I was getting a pretty good amount of silver. I told Miss Charm about Snake's reaction and she told me her story with him. She wanted her necklace back. Well, you have to wait, lady. I want a lot of stuff too. I got more carrots from the farmer and ate another cake to do some more studying, because why not? That got me over 100 points for each color. I feel like I should be doing better. I gave the merchant his spice and he not only got his taste back, but he loved it. And now he's asking me to prepare some gold star food so he can get some influence inside the royal council. I learned how to make wine and better benches for the church. But for the benches, I still need materials I don't have access to yet. I crafted a vine press on the corner of my yard and a wine barrel in the cellar. 2 buckets of grape juice gives me 20 wines. That's nice, but I only had enough to make 1 for now. And that completes my 100 days in this absolutely crazy but amazing game. Which, by the way, I still have no idea what I'm doing, but I know for sure I'm activating that portal. At the pace I'm going, I feel like it would take 1,000 days, so don't hesitate to help me in the comments with your pro tips, because I'm clearly struggling. Well, that's gonna be it for today. I hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you do, and I'll see you guys next time.